Most people that make content, they know what they're talking about. They have the material to write about or to speak about on camera, but they don't do a good job of getting people to give them a shot at their content.
I think a lot of people expect that everybody in your funnel, everybody who's going to see you is going to, buy from you. How can I, as quickly as possible, test if I can nurture somebody into buying something from me?
Those clips, starting from 0 followers, have the potential to actually gain millions of viewers.
He's built a 7-figure business with that very small audience. The more you focus on like how do I provide value to somebody, but also think about like how does that back into like a really natural use case for the thing that I'm selling, the better you are.
Welcome everyone to the Unnamed Podcast. Today we've got Nathan from The Feed Media. And today we're going to be covering a lot of different stuff, mainly everything content. So really, just to break this episode down, who is this podcast for? So today's show is for any business owner who is struggling to make sales. And the reason most of you are likely struggling with sales is probably because you don't have the attention required around your product to make those sales. I think everyone, including Nathan on this call, and anyone else listening can agree that a business with 0 attention is a business with 0 sales. So today, Nathan and I want to give everyone some information to help you garner attention around your business and ultimately how to sell your product at the end of the day. So let's get into it. The only way to capture attention for your audience is to make content. So traditionally, content was very expensive to make. This would be TV commercials, buying keywords, and just all other ads. But now, in today's world, it is free. Today, we get the opportunity to make podcasts, social media content, newsletters, all completely free. So most of today's episode is going to be covering the newsletter side of things and what to do once you actually have emails and once you actually have people to send a newsletter out to. But before we get there, for anybody who is starting at maybe 0, or maybe you have a couple hundred followers, maybe you just got your friends and family following you on social media, I'm going to give you 3 tips really fast. This will take 90 seconds on where to start getting your emails from, how to actually make content that will generate leads for you to eventually send your emails to. So I call this the 3 pillars to succeed on social media, and it goes like this. Number 1, post every day on every platform, and until you get that down, you don't need to be focusing on anything else. Figure out your system, figure out your path to get to 1 upload a day on every major platform: Instagram, Facebook, YouTube Shorts, LinkedIn, TikTok. I'll give you 1 tip here that might make this a little bit easier. If you have a podcast, this really, really helps with this process. For instance, I am also making a podcast right now, and it takes a while to build a YouTube channel. It can be pretty difficult to get past that 20, 30 views. But as you're doing your podcast, you've got probably 5, 6, 7 clips that you can pull from that podcast. And if you do it right, those clips, starting from 0 followers, have the potential to actually gain millions of viewers. So let me break down how to give your video a better shot at blowing up. The first 2 to 3 seconds of your video have to be perfect, absolutely perfect. You need to front load whatever the value of that clip is into the first 2 or 3 seconds of that video. So for instance, if you are selling tax services, maybe you have a strategy that is going to save your viewers money on taxes. Maybe that strategy is how to write off certain expenses to pay less taxes. So the way you would structure this is, in this video, I'm going to show you how to reduce your tax bill by $10,000 every year. That's it. Then you go into the strategy, then you break it down, then you present the technicalities to it. But always front load the value of the clip in the first 2 to 3 seconds. People need to know what they're watching and why they should watch the rest of this video. Last tip for starting on social media and getting leads and getting emails specifically from your audience. There is a service that is free that is called mini chats. Now, this is not sponsored. This is something that I use personally. I use for all of my clients. So ManyChats is a platform that you can use to get emails from your viewers. And what you're going to do is you're going to have maybe a magnet, an ebook, or some sort of free value that you want to send to your viewers. So what ManyChats does is you're going to set up a keyword in ManyChats, and then you're simply just going to ask your viewers to comment that specific keyword. Maybe you're giving away a free consultation. So what you would do is you go into ManyChats and you would type in the keyword as consult, and anybody who comments console under your video is going to get an automated DM that's going to ask for their email, and then it's going to send whatever your lead magnet is to that email. So what's great about ManyChats is not only does it drive comments, which drives engagements, which will push your video out to more viewers and to more people on the platform, but also it gets the email from your viewer, and with that email, you can add that and subscribe them to a newsletter. So, with that said, I'm going to bring in our guest for today, Nathan with the Feed Media Group, and he's going to give us a little insight on why business owners should use a newsletter, how it can help them, and he's also got quite a few tips here that he can share with you all to make your newsletter better. So, Nathan, how you doing?
What's going on, man? Long time no see.
What's going on? I know it's been a while. It's been a while. So, Nathan, let's just start off with why should business owners include a newsletter as part of their marketing funnel?
Yeah, I mean, so I think the number one reason is I think a lot of people expect that everybody in your funnel, everybody who's going to see you, is going to buy from you, right? But in reality, if you're doing a high ticket service, if you're SaaS, if you're selling e-commerce, whatever, uh, maybe 1%, 2%, 3% of people buy from you. Whatever happens to the other 95% of people, it's super super important to capture as much information about those people as you can. The easiest information to get is somebody's email, but there's so many businesses who don't really do anything with that. I used to run this app called Hashtag Expert. It's a really really big app. It's doing like 5 million a year. It's about social media actually, and there was no written content to anybody joining that newsletter. They had like 2 million emails, and the value that we could drive, just not necessarily writing to users and selling them, be like buy our thing, but actually just teaching them, let's say, how to grow on social media, and maybe weaving in tips of how our product may be able to help doing that, like a soft sell. That's how you kind of take somebody from like, I don't think this thing to help can help me, to, oh, now I don't see this as like a pushy sales email. This is actually quite thoughtful. This is quite valuable to me. Oh, now it makes sense to me how this tool could fit into my life or this thing I'm trying to do. And that's how you kind of nurture somebody into buying something from you. So I think it's a really big value.
Whenever these businesses are sending these newsletters out, what content do you think works best for it? Do you see people doing news stories related to the industry? Is it more of the soft selling on like what their product is and how it can help them? What's like the kind of content you guys use?
Yeah, so there are maybe like three types of newsletters. So the first type is more just news, like what's going on. So that would be like the New York Times or the Hustle or the Morning Brew. Like just like tell me like what's happening in the world. Within that, there's a part that's more like editorial. So that may be like, don't just tell me what's happening, but tell me how to think about what's happening. So that'd be like, Matt Levine, who writes money stuff, or like, any kind of like really famous journalist who's like really going deep on a topic, and you have an association maybe with them even more than the brand. On the business side of it, uh, there is, I would say, maybe three types. There's like maybe two. There's, hey, I am the expert. Listen to me on this thing. I've been where you are, and I'll teach you like how to get where you want to go. And then there's the other type, which is more of like the learner, which is like, hey, there's this thing I'm interested in, and I don't know a lot about it, but I'm gonna go find out, and I'm just gonna share what I know. And people like that as well. Yes, there's a couple different ways you can skin the cat.
Okay, so for a lot of people watching this, some of them are going to be new to a newsletter, and it's going to perk their ears, and they're gonna give it a shot. Do you have any tips on how someone can better succeed at a newsletter? So I know obviously a huge metric when it comes to deciding what if a newsletter is performing well is like open rates, or maybe clicks, and clicking to their website, to their product that they're trying to sell. What about tips around that on how to actually get people to open it. Because if you know me at all, anybody that's watching this, my big thing with content is, like I said earlier, the first 2 seconds or the first 30 seconds of a YouTube video. It's got to be absolutely perfect. It's got to be literally just focusing 90% of your attention on that first hook, on drawing them in versus, trying to perfect every last step that comes after that. Do you think that, would you say that, headlines or subject lines would be uh, a, a big deciding factor on like what makes for a good open rate?
Yeah, dude, it's huge. I mean that like that's the hook. You know what I mean? Like if you don't see something cool in the headline, like why would I read this? And so gosh, there's so many brands who do this well. But like there's this one called Market Beat, and they do like basically stock trading and stuff. But they do $40 million a year on 20 employees, so $2 million per employee. Like a content business, which they look like a software business just because the revenue per employee is so high, and they have great open rates, but they have really good headlines or sort of taglines in their emails. So I've gotten ones that are like, we these are little sales for it, but hey, there's a problem with your account, and the email is actually about you've been on a free trial, you've gotten access to some feature in their financial publications, and you're going to lose access in 7 days, unless you renew. And that's such a great like urgency call to action, and like I'm not with traders, so I just read it because I think they're really good copywriters. But they got me to open, even though I'm not interested in the thing. Like that's how good of a headline they're writing. So yeah, it's super important. I think everything is about how do you get somebody to the next stage of the funnel. And so the number one thing you can do that have the most impact is just boosting your open rates so that people see your content at all. You have the best content in the world. It doesn't matter if somebody opens it, and then it doesn't open it, and then it's, well, how do I get them to click? And then ultimately the thing you really want them to do, which is how do I get them to buy, right? That's the main KPI. Everything else is sort of secondary to that.
Yeah, I mean, I firmly believe that when it comes to really any marketing standpoint, that is why people people have a hard time getting attention, is because they might most people that make content, they know what they're talking about. Like they have the material to write about or to speak about on camera, but they don't do a good job of getting people to understand, or getting people to give them a shot at their content. And so I think that's, yeah, I always think that's huge. What about, let's kind of help out the people that might be new to newsletters. Let's wrap that up, and then let's go into people that are already doing newsletters and can get a few tips to help them out. But to wrap up beginner level newsletters, what's maybe like what's two or three things that someone that is like starting out fresh, what can they do to have a good start in the newsletter space?
Yeah, I mean, I would say like think about, a lot of people want to start with like building the audience, and they don't think about what how am I going to monetize it? Like, what's the business behind that? And so I'll see people start newsletters, and they're growing the subscribers, but they're not really thinking about the monetization part. And it's very easy to get hooked on the number of people who are reading your content and feel like that will carry you through, and you don't have to worry about who is buying. I would start with like, how can I, as quickly as possible, test if I can nurture somebody into buying something for me. So a great example, if you're like an Instagram creator, for instance, collecting the emails obviously is an extremely important part. Like using ManyChat, I think those are all great tools, but there's so many folks out there who like have lists. Maybe it's like 5K, 10K, 15K people, and they're not monetized at all. So there's a buddy of mine, this guy Logan Storty, who literally goes and will work with large creators and basically help them create like information products. So he works with a bunch of like fitness influencers, let's say, who have like really awesome like meal plans and things basically to get you looking and feeling better. And they'll sell that to the email list, and they might make, a dollar, $2 per subscriber. And now he'll work with lists. Like he actually just did a tweet this morning. I think it was a list of like 100, maybe 200K people or something like that. So actually quite a big one. But they did 140 grand on in 6 days on a sale of like an information product. There's another great example I love from like, so let's say you're not an Instagram creator, but you have like a services business. Let's say you're an agency. Uh, Daniel Fazio spends a ton of time. He's this guy, Cold Email Wizard on Twitter. He writes about copywriting, cold email, he has a software tool now called ListKit. And all he writes about is how does an agency owner create a system for customer acquisition? Because one of the number one problems service owners run into is you're getting all these leads, great. Now you have these clients, and now you slow down on the lead and the sales part because you're so busy with the client stuff. And then, oh, it turns out customer churns. How do I get my next client? You go to this feast and famine mode where things are either really good or things are kind of churning, just go back and forth, back and forth. So he provides a bunch of value, but one of the key parts of like customer acquisition is cold email. Well, he has courses on cold email, and now he has a SaaS that is, I think it's maybe 6 months old and it's doing $300,000 a month, called ListKit, where you can find the leads to do cold email for your services business. I'll do one of the quick examples. I think it's cool. There's this company Motion that we're thinking about using at our agency. So we run like meta ads for like big newsletter brands like personal creators, and like help them grow. And it's this really cool tool that lets you basically visualize all of your creative and like see really quickly which is doing well and which is not. And like, let's say you have a particular UGC creator, Ben, and you want to only look at the videos Ben has been in. How does Ben do to all the videos that Preston, your other UGC creator, has been? Like, it just makes it easy to cut the data like that, really visually without being technical. And they have an awesome newsletter where they just write about creating great creative, the AI tools that you can use, the metrics you should be looking at. And so like you just become a better advertiser, but also like they have a SaaS thing. So like I think the more you focus on like how do I provide value to somebody, but also think about like how does that back into like a really natural use case for the thing that I'm selling, the better you are. Because we're trialing Notion or not Notion but Motion right now, and I kind of want to buy it. Like they've earned my trust by giving me value up front.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's a big uh, selling point in just simply putting the information out there and like putting the secrets out there in like whatever industry you're in. And when a lot of people, especially in my space with the podcast hosts and partners that I work with, a lot of them are really hesitant to share their secrets, and they don't want to put out the exact details of what they do, because they don't want people to steal their strategies and whatnot. But it's almost like putting those secrets out there for the customer, at least when they see that and they see what it is exactly that you're doing that's working with other people. They don't want to say, okay, I'm going to go do this for myself now. They want to say, oh, you do know what you're doing. Let me use your thing. I actually want to be a part of this. So no, I think that's a really good point.
Yeah, it's like give away the secrets, sell the execution, right? And there's so many people who do a great job at this. I think people get hooked on this drug that you have to have so many followers. But if you have like a business sitting behind your Instagram account or behind your email, it's really like, do you have the right people following you? So there's this guy Nick Therio who runs an e-commerce agency. It's like a ad agency for e-commerce brands, and I found him when maybe he was 10,000 subscribers on YouTube. Now maybe he's 25,000 or something like that. But he's built a seven-figure business with that very small audience. And what does he do for his content? He literally just walks through how he creates his ads, the like Notion SOPs he's built for his team. He literally will show cost per leads or CPAs, the cost per acquiring a customer, for different accounts. He'll walk through the ads that worked and why they worked, the ones that didn't work. Like he's literally just taking what you do, if it's providing value and you have product market fit, so you're getting results for your customer, just taking that thing and just showing other people, and then you get all this inbound. I do the same thing for I write a newsletter for like newsletter folks and like media folks, and like I've just literally gone to LinkedIn and invited people to my newsletter. It's a private newsletter. You actually can't join it unless I invite you, and I only invite people who are like media executives or doing like hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars of newsletters. And so now my pitch is like, hey, this guy from Morning Brew and like XYZ and this other person are on this newsletter. They find it really helpful. It's for more advanced operators. Are you interested in? And people just do that. And it's one-on-one, and they're my exact ICP. And I don't care about having a newsletter or a following that is 100,000 people. I just need the 1,000 that like would buy from me and like really matter. And I just need to figure out how to find them and give them value.
That's smart. That's actually a really good idea. I love like the private newsletter. I've never really heard of that. That's pretty cool.
I think it's great. Any kind of like, if you're doing something that is high ticket, so maybe SaaS, but also services like an agency or whatever, like that one-to-one outreach can be really valuable. My mentor of mine, a good buddy of mine, this guy Jesse Pucci, he has this business called Growth Assistant, and it basically places Philippines talent, like pre-vetted, really good, like the top 1.1% talent, to agencies and SaaS companies and whatever to basically do very specific things. Like help them out basically, like more advanced than VAs, like more sophisticated stuff than that. And that business is going to do $15 million this year. It's under 3 years old, and a huge way of how he has gotten business is one-on-one outreaches via LinkedIn. He has a newsletter called Bootstrap Giants. Businesses come from that. Like he does have a big Twitter audience, so that it does help. Like I don't want to not mention that, but there is a very valuable hundreds of thousands, if not probably over $1 million, has come from just having the newsletter and one-on-one outreach.
Awesome. So we kind of covered, if you're getting started in newsletters, like how do you get started? But Nathan, how do you make money with this stuff?
Yeah, it's a good question. There's two ways that like newsletters will monetize. One is, let's say you don't have a business. Like let's say like you just want to build a big audience, and uh, people will sell ads, they'll sell sponsorships, right? So there's a great example of this. This guy Michael Hauk was a startup founder. He raised some money. That company didn't go super well, but like he started building an email list, and it's about 75,000, I think, folks. But it's all founders. Like it's a really valuable audience, and so that newsletter does a couple six figures per year just in sponsor revenue, because it's like Zapier and Notion and HubSpot, like whatever, these B2B companies are like, oh, awesome, you have this audience of only founders. That's who we want to reach. We will pay to reach that audience. And the great thing is a lot of the he'll get a lot of inbound because like founders are reading his newsletter. Well, founders also want to advertise for their companies, right? So it ties in really nicely together. The other way that folks will monetize is by driving traffic to their business, or by creating some kind of like information product. So there, I find the best things that you can do are to qualify the people who are coming into your newsletter as fast as possible. So by qualify, I mean like, is this somebody who would actually be a good customer? Now, if you are building your list off of social media, like your organic audience, you can probably do that using something like ManyChat, right? Like you put up a post, maybe it's for a specific, lead magnet. Like let's say you are, I found this fun business the other day that this guy's like a e-commerce agency, but only for pet care brands that are for dogs. Like so specific. But he's got 15 employees, which means he must be doing multiple seven figures, right? So let's say you were him, like building your organic audience, and like you might do like the 5 things you need to have that are working right now in your creative for dog brands that are selling e-commerce stuff. Super specific. If you see that and you own a pet food brand for dogs, it's like, yeah, this is literally talking to me. I want to see this. The DM is like, DM me pet food, right, or something, and you go in, you get the lead magnet via your email, and then there is somebody's they're probably self-qualified, right? The other way is if you're using paid ads and you're just growing your email list directly, which people like Justin Welsh, Sahil Bloom, these are people who are growing their audiences, but they're also using ads to grow their newsletter and sell ads or sell other products at the same time. They will qualify the person sometimes through surveys, especially in onboarding. So there are things like Beehive actually has this natively, but you can use a type form. You can use all kinds of stuff to basically just ask, like, are you, let's say you're the pet food guy, like, do you own a pet food brand? Is it doing more than $15,000 a month? You ask them 5 things, and you start to realize, oh, great, 20% of these people are making more than $15,000 a month. That would be my ICP, my ideal customer, ideal client profile. Perfect. I know these people are working. I feel good about these ads. Now, how do I take this list and actually do nurture emails that can sell them something? That would kind of be the next phase.
Yeah. So what about, like, and part of what you guys do is make ads for the newsletters for growth, right?
Yeah. So we basically we started like only running like ads on Facebook for newsletters. Generally, the ones that were like monetizing via sponsorships. Like we work with like some of the big AI newsletters, like the Rundown. We work with Arnold Schwarzenegger, who's like more of like a personal brand, but he has like a newsletter of like 800,000 people where he just talks about fitness stuff and health and nutrition and all this. We have also started working more with business owners who have an email list, but they're trying to sell something. So there's this guy Jesse Pucci is a great example. He founded one of the earliest Facebook marketing agencies that did a little under sold for around $100 million. Now he has other businesses like Growth Assistant that's doing 15 mil. He has one called Auction Sites that's doing 5 million. Like he's just bootstrapping these businesses, and we're literally going to do a call immediately after this podcast where we're going to talk about Ox Insights. He has this firm that basically sells private equity due diligence work for marketing. So a big PE firm wants to buy a company, they could go to BCG or Bain or McKinsey and pay $200,000 a week, which is a wacko amount of money, but that's how much their services cost. Or they could go to like Ox and pay $50,000 a week and get marketing specific diligence, which is something that like the big firms don't really know about. They don't know about Facebook ads. They don't know about Google. And so we're talking about, well, how do we basically build a list of people who are private equity professionals and add value to those people so that they realize, one, the value of doing marketing diligence at all, right? So now they're in market for marketing diligence. And now once they're in market for marketing diligence, how do we make sure that they feel that KC and Auction Sites are the right people for them? How do we make them seen as an authority where they'll get inbound just from owning that email list?
So what ads do you guys see that are working right now in that space?
So there's two ways I would think about ads. One are like the hook that like maybe there's a consistent vehicle that works really well. You know, like if you're trying to go fast, like you get a sports car. And it may not be the best car for all things, but like if you're trying to go fast, like sports cars are great. Those are like templates for ads, you know? So like there are things like notes ads where you're just writing a little bit of text, having B-roll with some text about the value of the newsletter. Those are great examples of like formats that tend to work. That's like a visual format, right? That works. There's also like what you say in the newsletter, so or what you say in the ads, like calling out the audience, or calling out a problem. Those are more like somebody saying something. There's also more like audio hooks, which are like there's this video where like I think one of the Kardashians, like something falls on the ground, like a $15,000 vase or something, and they just go and like that, like starting that with an ad can like be really helpful. So this kind of things can start to work on average. That's like bucket one. Bucket two is copywriting, and this is true for content as much as it is for ads. You, I think people have a habit of trying to speak to everybody in their audience at the same time. And when you speak to everybody, you don't really do a great job of speaking to any particular person at all. So I'll give you a quick example. There is a newsletter, we don't work with them, but they're good friends, called 1440. And they basically write impartial news, right? So everybody's like anti-CNN, they're anti-Fox. Like news is just pulling us apart. Like they're like, we're down the middle.
I've heard of these guys. Yeah.
They're huge. They have like 4 million readers. And one group of people who are on their newsletter are like very like anti-Zuck, right? They're very distrusting of getting news from social media. And so one way they attack that in the ads is to say like, you know, basically get out of the grasp of like Zuck's like control over media. Like they attack somebody who is very particular and aware that they think that is a problem. That is very different from, let's say, somebody who feels stressed out or angry by the news, right? You open your phone in the morning, like first thing, what do you see? It's a bunch of push notifications about literally the worst things that are going on in the world, because that's what gets people's attention. And so another way to treat that hook for that audience is to talk about like, are you waking up or getting worse sleep because you're waking up and reading these notifications? Are you feeling stressed out, right, because of what you're reading? Like, here's how to get away from that. Like, read 1440. There's no clickbaity headlines. We just give you the news as it is. And so like two very different groups of people reading the newsletter for different reasons, even though it's the same content. And you can't talk to those people the same way. It's the same thing you would do for organic content. Like that theory, I guess, that principle of like speaking to the audience through copywriting and like knowing how to like what dial to tune is important for like both types of content.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of identifying like what segments of people do your newsletter fit for, which can be, you know, like you said, if you're trying to target all those like, segments at once, you're not really targeting any, but like breaking it down into what groups are you actually trying to talk to in the specific ad. That makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. That's cool.
Yeah. It's like, I mean, even if you think about like take a meta for a second, like this podcast we're doing right now, like we would have a very different like talk track if we were talking about like big newsletters that are monetizing via sponsorship. Like I think the person who's like, maybe following you and a bit of listening to my stuff too. Maybe like they're on Instagram, or maybe they're either some type of creator where they have a business and they're trying to figure out how to use email for that business. So it doesn't make sense to talk about sponsorships that much. Like we should talk about funnels and like great copywriting, like how to use paid ads and nurture people to buy your product, right? It's just it's making the talk track like relevant to somebody. That same thing applies to your organic content. That same thing applies to your ads.
Awesome. Sweet, dude. Well, I think we got to wrap up here, but man, awesome having you on. We kind of go back a little bit of a long ways now at this point. So
we did some newsletter stuff back in the day. Yeah,
I
yeah.
know,
We
I
did.
know. We had a little run of our own.
Yeah.
Dude, awesome. I love talking to you on here. It was good. It was a fun way to catch up through a podcast instead of just a normal phone call.
Yeah. Well, let's do both. We'll do both. But yeah, this is fun.
We'll figure it out. Awesome, dude. Well, I'll let you go. We'll conclude here. Everyone, thank you for watching. Real quick, Nathan, where can people find you, and where can people find you?
Yeah, I am Mayhem on Twitter. I'll be tweeting more about newsletters, I think, starting kind of this month. And then Nathan May on LinkedIn, and then Nathan at thefeedmedia.com. If you email me questions, I'll answer about newsletters.
Awesome, sweet. It'll all be in the description as well. So if anyone wants to check any of that out, just hop down there. But we're going to conclude this episode. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll be back next week with another episode. Catch you later.